So I'd like to call to order this public hearing, fiscal year 2015-2016 budget, second reading of resolutions. So the meeting is called to order. It's right here in City Council chambers at 7 o'clock on this Thursday, September 24th. If you would all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you all very much. Roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Acting Mayor Bill Colombo.
Here.
Councilman Steve O'Neill.
Here.
Councilwoman Nancy Britton.
Here.
Councilman Terrence Rowe.
Here.
Interim Councilwoman Phyllis Gray.
Here.
City Attorney Joseph Public. Please let the record show he's absent this evening. And City Manager Tom O'Neill.
Here.
That was loud. That was good. Announcements, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, just briefly, I'll speak on a few items with regard to the budget, and then we can move on as you see fit. This is your second and final public hearing. The budget will be adopted tonight as you see fit. The budget total is $10,499,918. The budget is less than last year. It represents an overall decrease in the amount of $470,324. It reflects all of the projects that we've talked about. We did add back in the paint up, fix up in the amount of $35,000. We put in money for special events in the amount of $5,000. And just a moment, please. We also put in money for the US 19 media improvements, which would be reimbursed by a grant if indeed that proceeds. Finally, the budget is balanced on the adjusted rollback millage rate of 5.7666 mils. And with that, we can proceed.
Very good. We'll do approval of council minutes, City Council budget minutes of September 10th, 2015. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? Any issues?
Yes, I have a correction I've already alerted the clerk to. She's going to make the correction. It is on page 4. It was listed that I had made a statement here, and it was actually Steve O'Neill.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, sir. Anything else? Okay, we motion to approve, second. Do we get that?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I think that's comments from general public? Okay, apparently not. Bring it back up to council comments. Comments from the mayor and city council. Anybody have any comments to make? Ms. Gray?
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. Reading through the minutes from the last workshop, I noticed that we had talked about fireworks, and now Mr. O'Neill says tonight that there's $5,000 appropriated for the fireworks.
It's listed under special events.
Right, which I am very much in favor of. The comment that I want, I'm looking at you, Ms. Britton, but you were not looking at me. The comment that I wanted to make, I'm very much in favor of that, as you all know. I am not in favor of the city turning over control of the fireworks to the business community. I think the city has to stay in control. And when the time comes for next 4th of July, we have certainly a lot of time. Way prior to that, we should see if we could get some donations like we used to do, and just proceed with the city doing whatever we can do. Now, I remember one year we had a cookout, and it was wonderful, and it was all part of 4th of July. So I know we have many months before we get anywhere near there. Maybe we should start thinking about this in February or March or something like that. But I do want the city to stay in control. Once you lose control, you have what we had last year. And that, quite frankly, was an embarrassment. So, and then, I know that we talked last budget meeting about the budget itself, of course, and how much each department contributes to the city and how many employees they have. And I know we again talked about how difficult it would be for council to get into any kind of a discussion. In fact, Nancy had said, we're really not in any position, or do we have the knowledge of how each department is run. Thinking about that and reflecting back on the years that I had in public service in New York, I hate to say that because everybody down here says, well, it used to be that way in New York. Well, you know, I just want to throw that out. We used to do, the state of New York used to do a time and motion study. And that takes it away from the city. It takes the personal feelings for each employee away from council. And it puts it into the hands of a neutral company, and there are many that do this. And I think, and I mentioned last week, we have the life of the city that has to be preserved. And I think if we have a company that does a time and motion study and they can come before council and explain what they have done and what they can offer to us, I think that would be in the best interest of the people of Port Richey. And it's we the people, of course, as you all know, that pay the taxes, and I think we need to know that everybody that's working for the city is here and is working to their full capacity, and we can serve the people the best way we possibly can. And if it means reducing staff or whatever the company comes up with, I think it's something that needs to be considered. And I mean, you know, I don't think we can make any motion to that effect tonight, but it's just something that I think council ought to consider.
Okay.
Okay?
Anybody else? No comments?
I'm just kind of curious that the time and motion study, which I think is a great idea, that only covers employees and whether or not they're being utilized correctly, or is part of that study more comprehensive? Like can you actually have them look into each department and the budget of that department and so on and so forth?
Yes, that's exactly how it's done,
Okay.
Nancy. Each department is done individually, and what the work that's carried on in that department and who does it, how many people, it's very, very comprehensive. It is.
Do you know what the cost of something like that is?
I don't, Nancy, I really don't.
Yeah, we'd have to agenda an item like that.
I'm sorry?
We'd have to agenda an item like that to
Yes,
look into that.
we
yeah.
could,
Yeah.
you know, if it was put on the
Yeah.
agenda, and maybe we could do some research in the meantime, but it's not going to be inexpensive, I can't imagine. But I think in the long run, it's money well spent. If we have it, it's money well spent. I did speak to the city of Temple Terrace, and I spoke to Joe Gross, who is no longer with code enforcement. He's now with the city of of Tampa, but he's kind of my mentor, you know. And so I spoke to him today, and he was going to send me some information. He was emailing it to the store. He was going to send some information about what he was going to propose to the city of Temple Terrace, but then he got offered this fantastic job, and so
Right.
he moved over. But there is an agency that does this, and he told me what it was. I was driving, so I couldn't write it down, but Joe is going to send it to me, and I'll make copies, and I'll be sure that everybody gets it. That might be a starting point. And then there may be a private independent company that we can get some research
Right,
on. Okay?
Anything else? You good?
I do.
I know.
I just
saw
figured,
you.
well, I
was
just figured now might
I
be the
just figured
time,
I'd
because I
cover that into the
know
room.
once we start, we're just basically gonna go through the motions here
Right.
with what we have. So, I guess if you're inviting the time now, we might as well take it. To Phyllis's point on the fireworks, I'll agree somewhat, because I think the business community, if this is part, and as I believe they referenced, if the city would, yes, be in control, however, extending that olive branch out when it regards funding and trying to have some events that might raise funds for another fireworks, I think we all remember the light show. We got to do better. So, if we can have some funding or have some events at Waterfront or something like that, I know people are going to turn out, and I know people will help that cause, because a lot of folks use that park. And, years ago, it used to be the mall, not anymore. So I wanted to start with that point. And I might as well hit on this, Terry hit on it before. To Terry's point, in going forward, I think he realizes as well that, constantly adopting where we're at, which everybody knows I've not been a fan of, regarding the millage and the rollback rate. Terry, your point was, in going forward, there would either be cuts or there'll be a raise in the millage. That's the decision that you'll have next time, I think personally. To go on my first point regarding millage and the 700K from the CRA, we're all aware. We've all been up here a long time. We know during the time of one of our city managers, this had to be done. It was done legally, and it was done with great thought. And this is where we sit today. That figure still remains the same, if not a little bit more. Since we are going to cover it, the stormwater utility, we've asked that be on the agenda. It probably will be after the election, I'm sure. The red light revenue, we talked about it. This has really been, a hard point. We were told a long time ago, then by the mayor, that, these funds would constantly decrease. And that makes sense, and they have. And now they're very low. And that's something that'll have to be evaluated as well. The housing market has had a great effect on our reserves. We're seeing that when we've got to supplement upwards of 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. That's going to make a difference, and that obviously hasn't helped us. And lastly, the 35K on the paint fix-up. I don't know if now's the time to note that. I believe it was kept in, and we talked, and I believe Nancy hit on this point, very important. We remember in previous meetings, I believe it was mentioned that we had obligations that extended outside of the 100,000 that we would be obligated to take care of. So there must be some stop gaps in the 35K this time, and I think we talked about them.
Right.
That if it's there and people are going to take advantage, my thought is it's going to go very fast.
Yeah.
And we really need to have a system in place that, it gets out to the people that need it the most.
Yeah, and in my opinion too, is we put it in a budget, but it's on hold until we discuss it as to exactly how we're going to implement it. So
Great.
just because it's in the budget doesn't mean it's gonna, roll on the way it rolled on.
Good point.
Okay, all those things being heard, let's move on to council business. We have agenda item number 1, resolution number 15-07. Which is a reading by title, basically, a resolution adopting the millage rate for the city of Port Ritchie for the fiscal year commencing on October 1st, 2015, and ending on September 30th, 2016. As the city manager mentioned, that it is at the adjusted rollback rate of, set at the 5.76666 mils, yes. You know, it results in an increase to the rollback rate of a relatively marginal increase. Do I have a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Public? Okay, back up to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? All right. Agenda item number 2, Resolution 15-08. Pardon me. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Port Ritchie, Florida, setting the city administration budget for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2016. Any comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
We have a second from Phyllis, okay. Comments from the public? Back up here. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. All right, lost my page. Where'd it go?
29.
29, yes. Adoption of the utility department budget, second reading. This is a resolution number 15-09, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Port Ritchie, Florida, setting the utility department budget for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2016. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Public comment? Back up to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Very good. Yeah. Agenda item number 4, second reading of the adoption of resolution number 10-15, adoption of the stormwater utility fund budget. Again, second reading. Reading by title only, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Ritchie, Florida, setting the stormwater utility fund budget for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2016. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just a question.
Sure.
If indeed Burton and Associates in the future is hired to evaluate the stormwater, is there kind of a timeline that you've experienced in, how long that would take to come up with?
It wouldn't take very long for them to perform a revenue sufficiency analysis
Okay.
for that enterprise fund.
Okay.
I'd say a month.
A month, okay.
But I think there's a period of time we have to go through before we would implement something like that. Is that right?
Yes, it would be similar to the change in utility rates.
Right. Yeah. So
Public
it's
notifications, public hearings, and
Public
so
hearing and all
forth.
that sort of thing. Okay. So we have a first, we have a second. Do we have any more discussion? Public comment? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Everybody's in favor, okay. Next item, is that the, where are we at here? My.
45.
Yes. Resolution, agenda item number 5, resolution number 15-11, adoption of the Penny for Pasco budget, second reading. Being read by title only, resolution number 15-11, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Port Ritchie, Florida, setting the Penny for Pasco budget capital improvement plan for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2016. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Oops, second?
Okay, we got a first by Terry and a second by Nancy. Any discussion on council? Out to public. Back up to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any against? Motion passes. All right. What do we have next?
That's it.
That's it for this
Sir.
particular meeting? Yes, it is.
Before you close,
I'm sorry?
I said before you close.
Yes, ma'am?
I think Nancy wanted to say something, and then I wanted to say something, so either,
I have a couple things I need to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Are these budget-related items, or?
Well, one is, actually, yeah, one is. So how do you want to do this? You want to close the meeting?
Yeah, I'm open for comments. It is a budget hearing, so, you know, I hate to stray too far off track. So, I mean, if you have a short comment to make, I'd say, great. You know, if it's a longer comment, it really needs to be saved for a regular city council meeting. Because this is a budget hearing, so that's how it's, you know.
Well, can we close the meeting down and can I, because there's some things I kind of feel like I need to bring up.
Well, you can't bring them up outside of a meeting, though. I can't close the meeting and then have a discussion. That's my
I could
problem.
have probably said it by now.
Yes, you could have, probably. Would you like to make a quick comment, Nancy?
Yeah, well, the first thing that's really important that I want to bring up is Wednesday, the day after Election Day, I will not be able to be here. And so I want everybody to know that all the candidates, it's like I'm not picking on anybody if one person wins and the other one doesn't, whatever. I just wanted to say it now because I have had something on my agenda, on my schedule for over 6 months I cannot get out of. So unfortunately, you know, this all happened when I didn't foresee it, and I must go. And then, you know, I'm going to try my best to do the swearing in, but I may have an issue there, but I'm going to work really hard on trying to figure that out. But I wanted to announce that early.
Okay.
And then I wanted to just make a statement about the fundraisers in the park that Mr. O'Neill brought up about the, you know, the budget and whatnot. And that's a great idea toward, you know, future fireworks, but, you know, we're trying to even do a splash park and we have very little volunteers. And so that being said, I had gone to the chief of police and asked him whether or not we could possibly find out if there was any used traveling signs. And we were talking earlier, and that he thinks that for like $15,000, we could get a traveling sign that we could utilize in the city of Port Richey to get the messages out that we are not getting out to the public, because our public here is so misinformed. I think that I would like to know if the council would have interest in at least hearing out the chief and allowing us to go forward to put it on an agenda.
Did you have a comment, ma'am?
I'd like to comment on Nancy's comment.
Oh, okay.
And then I would like to comment on something completely different.
Okay.
Just a comment, it's not
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
When Nancy talks about the signs, you know, in the city, and people really don't know what's going on. It's the truth of the matter. Years ago, when City Hall was first built, and we have that nice sign out there, and it says City Hall, I asked the city manager at that time, God bless you, I asked the city manager at that time, couldn't we have a sign like, I don't know how to describe it, like Culver's right now has flavor of the day. Every day they change their ice cream. And they have this illuminated sign. And, you know, he was supposed to look into it and do something that we could have at the front of City Hall. That's right there at the curb where the big City Hall
okay.
sign is. And that, if you could put something that said, budget meeting tonight, 7 p.m., next week, whenever, council meeting, Tuesday, blah, blah, blah. And just something like that, so people riding up and down Ridge Road would know. I mean, if we don't put something up at the gate at Sand Pebble, they're completely oblivious to everything, as we well know, because we don't have that much attendance in our own meetings. But they go back and forth on Ridge Road, and maybe something going along those lines coming in the future, maybe we could consider something like that.
Right.
Okay?
Mhm.
Are you ready for my own?
Sure.
Okay. Somebody brought up, I guess, Mr. O'Neill brought up.
Again, I hope it's kind of budget related, you know.
Well, it will be.
Okay.
You know, if,
Well, I mean, everything is to a
it's
certain
a little
degree.
bit of a stretch, but it will be. Steve brought up, things in the park. We have this park. It's a big piece of property. It is the most underutilized big piece of beautiful property. And why can't we do something with this park? I mean, from day one, when the park was first built, it was even before my time, you drive into the park, what's the first thing that you see? Smack in your face, a restroom. Female, male restroom. I mean, come on, it is absolutely ugly beyond words. All right, rest in peace, he did it, and so we've lived with it for all these years. Why can't we make the park be something? It doesn't look like a park, it looks like a manicured piece of property. You can't see the water, because the mangroves are there and whatever else is growing out, and now we don't have the pier there or whatever it was. What is it? If we're not going to do anything with it, why don't we just give it back to where it came from, the estate or something, and then they could sell it to some developer and we'd have some big beautiful houses there. But you can't even see the water. Waterfront park, what a joke. You can't see the water. It's like real estate signs, water accessible. What water? You can't get to the water from any of these places. So do something with the park. It is awful.
And we have done a lot planning on the park. We are waiting on some grants that will help us do some work in the park.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, but, working within our budget, as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
we are, that is on all of our radar, that park.
Okay.
That is no doubt about that. I mean, I think I speak for everybody on
Yeah,
that
but
one.
she's got a point. I mean, you cannot see the water, so cut the mangroves or do something.
Well,
Yeah, but you
again.
have CRA next. that we're
Yeah,
gonna talk
we have
about.
CRA next, but, yeah, I mean, it's just a matter, we're on the subject, so we might as well close it out. You can't, again, that park property was granted us to be used in a natural state. We have to, any major changes we make in that park has to be approved by the state. Going in and cutting down the mangroves, as far as I'm concerned, they're not going to approve. They want indigenous life forms, they want indigenous plants. That's the way they want the park, basically. So I understand what you're saying. There are parts, obviously, of the park where you can walk out and see the water. Can you see the water from everywhere in the park or all the water around the park? Not necessarily, but.
But you
Well,
could cut the mangroves back, you could keep them trimmed.
The mangroves have to be 6 feet off
Yeah,
the
yeah,
water,
yeah,
because that's what
right.
we do at Sand Pebble. But speaking again about the park and the state, we're pretty much held hostage, you realize that? There isn't anything that you can do. I mean, back a few years ago, I wanted to have a couple of basketball hoops. So we go up to the people and, no, you can't have that. Well, why can't you have it? Because the park is passive.
It's passive, yeah.
You can't make it active. Okay, a couple of kids shooting hoops is, we couldn't even do a little t-ball. No, because that's active. The park has to stay passive. I think if everything that we want to do, you need to go to them and get their permission. And if it means going and saying, we'd like to make it look like a park and we'd like to be able to see the water, if we ask them and get it in writing from them, I mean, we may be pains in the neck in going to them every 5 minutes. I know I would. But something needs to be done. It's awful. It is absolute. I pass it every single day. It is so ugly,
Okay.
beyond words. So you're going to hear this now tonight, and when I move back out there, you're going to hear it back out there
I
too.
certainly will. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I'll make a quick comment. It is passive. It's people passing it right by. That's what's occurring. Now,
Holding that one in your pocket.
I would
That's a good
just say, take for example the Unity that exists in Newport Richey and what's going on with their park. Here, we have conflict. We always have conflict in Port Richey. This is a big conflict because those funds may not see the light of day in Port Richey. And if they don't, you're gonna look at that park, Phyllis, for another 20 years.
Oy.
And it'll look just the same. Just call it Dog Dunk Park or something, because that's all that's going on there. We must make something happen. I hope it will soon, but we're gonna get a chance, because if those funds aren't utilized, going with our plan, all is gone, in my opinion.
Well, to close this meeting out, and I agree, we need to move forward on the park. It is high on our agenda, but, once again, it's tough to compare us to other cities like Newport Richey. They do have a much higher revenue base than we do. They're a much bigger city. I mean, they're like 17
times but bigger.
Yeah, I think actually bigger than that, but yeah, I mean, it's,
No, because we're about 3 and they're 30, so
15.
they're how much?
15.
They're 15?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're 7.5 times bigger.
yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that,
I don't,
we won't do the
where's my
math on that.
calculator?
We don't have Mr. Schatzel here tonight to work on that. so.
Really?
So anyway, I think that concludes the business before this, this budget hearing. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
And then we have a first and a second, so this meeting is adjourned. We'll take just a second while Tammy switches, works her little magic over there.